There are certain moments in video games that stick with you, like Link pulling the Master Sword in Ocarina of Time, or seeing that first zombie in a Resident Evil game. They let you know that the journey you're about to go on is going to be epic and memorable. The 2006 version of the titular franchise Sonic the Hedgehog has a similar moment. Princess Elise has lit a giant Olympic-style torch and is suddenly attacked by a barrage of missiles. She turns around and sees Dr. Eggman, or what is supposed to be Dr. Eggman. It's weird. Some of the elements of Dr. Eggman are there, but just kind of feels off. It was this moment where I knew that while this probably won't be epic, it would be a game that I would not forget for a long time. You'll see what I mean when I once again recomplete Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Completionist New Game Plus, the show where I am recompleting the first 120 games I ever featured here on this channel. Today marks our 100th episode of Games Recompleted, only 20 left. Today, we are hitting one of the most infamous games I've ever tackled, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Now, this game has been ridiculed, memeified, and shat upon ever since it was released. And I am absolutely guilty of this as well. I ripped into this game all those years ago. But I'd like to think that I've changed a lot since then, and I've matured both as a YouTuber and as a person, and I'm not about ripping into the game just as an easy target. So for those of you coming in expecting me to make fun of Sonic 2006, well, I want to try and cure those expectations before we even get started, you know. However, I do get there's still a bunch of you out there who want that kind of YouTube content, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way, shall we? Here we go. This game is a big piece of poo-poo duty poo-poo. All 3D Sonic games are terrible. Why don't 3D Sonic games know how to go into 3D from 2D? Why are they all bad? Why are there humans when everyone else is animals? Why? I don't know. Are Elise and Sonic dating? Are they doing it? Who knows? Why does Rouge the Bat got such big boobies? I don't know. Isn't it weird and sexy? It's no use. It's no use. It's no use. Is that enough? Do we get it? Are we good? You guys get that vibe? Awesome. Now that's out of the way. Let's recomplete Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 again. Let's begin.
And the battle continues! This could turn it all around! This bout will determine who is the strongest once and for all!
The rewind. Alright, so if you know anything about video games, you know Sonic the Hedgehog. And if you know Sonic the Hedgehog, you basically know Sonic 2006. It was this game that seemingly cemented a worldwide belief that, quote-unquote, all 3D Sonic games are bad. Something I very much disagree with. But no development team comes in wanting to make a game that's bad. In fact, Sonic Team came in wanting to completely rejuvenate the franchise with this title. Sonic 2006 was supposed to be a celebration for the Blue Blur. It was his 15th anniversary, and Sonic Team wanted to make something truly special to bring him into the 7th generation of consoles. So they pulled all the stops. They decided to put the game on the strongest hardware possible, the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. It used the new Havoc engine to make the graphics and physics better than ever. Sonic Team crafted a story that would be more epic and personal than Sonic had ever done before. But even with the best intentions, things can go disastrously wrong. Part of the new problem working with new hardware is that it's usually completely different from what you've just previously worked on. And this was true with the Xbox 360 and especially true with the PlayStation 3. Add on a completely different brand new engine and the job just got 3 times harder. Then in March of 2006, the year the game came out, Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, left SEGA because he did not want to spend the rest of his life working on Sonic games. While I completely relate from a creativity standpoint, this took a lot of wind out of the sails of the developers. There's this interesting quote from former CEO of SEGA of America, Tom Kalinske, from around this time, where he said, "They lost the heart and soul of Sonic for a while, and I think that made an enormous immediate difference in the next products that came out. And that can especially be seen when Yuji Naka left SEGA. Soon afterwards, SEGA was presented with the development kit for the Nintendo Wii. Realizing it wasn't strong enough to run Sonic 06, SEGA opted to split Sonic Team in half in order to make Sonic and the Secret Rings for the Nintendo Wii so they could reach a wider audience and make more money. On top of all of this, SEGA pushed Sonic Team to get Sonic 2006 done by November of that year so they could meet the holiday deadline and make even more money, despite the quality of the product they were releasing. This forced Sonic Team to bulldoze through every part of the game and completely ignore the QA team when they pointed out some of the numerous bugs and glitches. Now, I touched on this a little bit in the original episode, but all I really said was, that sucks and this game sucks. I never dove into what this must have meant to all the people who were working at Sonic Team. Imagine you're working in a kitchen at a fancy restaurant. The head chef comes in with a great dish that is a twist on a classic. But right when the dinner rush is about to begin, the head chef just leaves. Then the restaurant owner comes in and says he has another restaurant that wants the same food and just takes half of your kitchen staff. Then he gets mad that the food isn't on the diner's tables yet and serves it to them even though the chicken is basically raw and they'll get salmonella. You would feel like garbage. And that's what happened to Sonic Team. And now, for better or for worse, I'm hungry. It's because of all of this that I've always said that Sonic 2006 is more of a tech demo than an actual game. But even though this game is broken beyond belief, and trust me, we will get to that, it's still an important game to me, because this is the last game that I ever quote-unquote burned. Originally, my lowest rating for a game was Burn It. These were games that I considered so bad that they shouldn't be played by anyone, and it was better that they be destroyed altogether. These were games like Sneak King and Magic Wang Designers for the Nintendo DS and Heart of Darkness for the PlayStation 1. But in creating my video on Sonic 2006, the whole experience changed for me. This isn't some game that was just made to grab cash despite Sega's best efforts. It was made by a whole team of people who really cared about the product, and that deserves some respect at the very least. So to me, Sonic 2006 isn't just my 100th video as the Completionist, let alone the 100th video of New Game Plus. It represents my own maturity as a person. A lot changed in my life right around then. I took a few months off to reflect on myself and the channel. Relationships had changed, I had changed. I no longer wanted to just make dumb jokes at the expense of a game. I wanted to talk about games and how the completion experience affected them. And that all began with Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. And I'd like to think that the show is better off for it nowadays. I know that everyone wishes that there was more humor in the show, or that the humor that currently exists in the show is cringe, which, by the way, the word cringe is cringe. Who cares about cringe? The idea is that I put myself out there and hope that people like what I do or don't. It's simple as that. And I think that at this point in my career, I think I just got sick of making jokes that seemed easy. And that when I do execute a joke, that it comes from a place that I think is actually funny and that I want to share with you guys. The replay. So earlier I said Sonic 2006 feels completely unfinished. However, you don't get that from the opening cutscene. The opening cutscene shows Princess Elise as she lights the ceremonial torch, celebrating the Festival of the Sun. She then has a premonition of a large fiery creature destroying her kingdom, So Leanna. She comes back to reality, lights the torch, and is then kidnapped by Dr. Eggman, who says that he wants to unleash the flames of disaster that are within her. However, surprise, surprise, Sonic is there to save the day and he runs off with her. In the distance, a silver hedgehog looks at Sonic and calls him the Iblis Trigger. And shortly after, Princess Elise is captured anyway, and it leads up to Sonic and all of his friends to try and save her by running through each of the levels as fast as possible while collecting as many rings and medals as they can along the way. So although this is a lot to take in with in terms of what you don't fully understand at the beginning of a game, I have to say the opening cutscene looks pretty dang good. In fact, it looks pretty great. It feels like I'm playing a Final Fantasy game, which is why it's so jarring when Dr. Eggman shows up. And then Sonic arrives and looks even more out of place. So in the original episode I wrote, this is where a lot of my time was spent freaking out on how weird Robotnik looks. But that's the look that Sonic Team was going for, and even though it's still weird to me today, I kinda get it, especially that mini Pope. Every game should have a mini Pope. What's truly shocking is the transition from the opening cinematic cutscene to the regular cutscenes. The difference in quality is quite staggering. I'm not saying the regular cutscenes are bad, but we immediately go from a dark night in So Leanna with thousands of people and lots of different dark colors to an entirely empty city that feels unbelievably bland, which is a shame because I was kind of digging the setting, yet it feels even worse when the gameplay starts. You start off in So Leanna and it's a pretty big hub world, and that's kind of rad, but then the city feels completely empty since there are about maybe 5 people here out and about, when I had just seen maybe 1,000 people in one spot for a ceremony in a cutscene. The true nature is that this is when the awfulness of Sonic 2006 really starts to set in, because every single NPC in this overworld hub looks bad. Just really bad. Every human looks like if you took a ball of silly putty, molded it into the shape of a person, and let it melt just a little bit. They literally just say, hey, or hey.
Hey. Hey. Hey. Hey.
In what might be the worst voice acting I've heard for a game in a while. And you will hear it a lot because you'll have to interact with these NPCs to start town missions. These are separate missions found throughout So Leanna used to earn rings and items throughout your journey. But to start them, you have to talk to these NPCs and wait through literally 3 different loading screens. This is especially frustrating when you fail and you have to wait through 2 more. It genuinely feels uncomfortable interacting with them, and yet it didn't have to be. When I first completed Sonic 2006, I thought I was uncomfortable because of the art style and how it was completely different and threw me off altogether. And Sonic Team seemed to agree because the humans in Sonic Unleashed actually look like they belong with Sonic characters in this world. But I think it's really because they don't address it. Compare this to a game that does the exact same thing but justifies it. Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, I know I'm comparing Sonic 06 to Super Mario Odyssey, which is one of my favorite games ever made. And yes, those humans in Mario Odyssey are kind of weird and sometimes PS2 quality, but trust me, this makes sense. Super Mario Odyssey has New Donk City, an entire planet with realistic looking people, and their appearance compared to Mario's is justified because, for lack of a better term, it's an entirely different planet from where Mario's from. And on top of that, the citizens comment on how different they look. Compare this to the 2006 Sonic, where Sonic doesn't even have a reason for rescuing Princess Elise in the beginning. He does it just because, well, he's the hero. And yes, I'm aware Mario Odyssey came out many years after Sonic 2006. The point I'm bringing up is revolved around the process of justification. This puts the player in a weird position of looking at everything from the outside instead of being sucked into what is happening. And although the presentation does get better in the action stages, it still doesn't feel right. The action stages are the main levels of the game, or what most people would recognize as a 3D Sonic level. These levels are fairly varied and have some pretty memorable moments in them. Also, there are things that look like what you'd expect from a Sonic game. Insane speed, some type of sport every now and then, a killer whale, 90s/early 2000s stuff. But more often than not, there are graphical glitches that will completely ruin your experience, such as falling through the floor or getting stuck on a wall. 2 sides to the same frustrating coin. Fortunately, a lot of the presentation issues are saved by the incredible music, which is always a given in a Sonic game. Seriously, I don't think there's been a Sonic game that has a bad soundtrack because of Jun Sonoy. In the end, the presentation is okay. The cinematic cutscenes are great, and the music is top-notch as always. And although the humans look really weird and the voice acting leaves a lot to be desired, I can look past that. What I can't look past is when a game is unfortunately virtually unplayable. Okay, let's start with the action stages. The meat and potatoes of everything going on here. Your goal, as it is in almost every Sonic game, is to get to the end of the stage as quickly as possible with as many rings as possible with a high score. If you finish fast enough with enough rings, with a high score, you could get an S rank. The first big problem here, though, is that nothing really works all that well. You'll go through your usual platforming elements, and the game will then decide that you didn't hit the jump or light dash button, and then you'll just plummet to your death. Oftentimes, you will just go careening off of one of the many loops, even though you came at it straight on, and plummet to your death. But my biggest issue is that Sonic doesn't feel all that fast in the regular action stages at all. He feels really sluggish, like trying to push Silly Putty up a hill. And if you try to guide him, he won't turn fast enough to avoid what is coming up next. This is especially frustrating in Sonic's speed sections of the action stages, where it's kind of the opposite, where he's moving too fast. You don't really have all of the best mobility options to track him with, He's definitely hard to control, and it never turns out well whenever they turn the camera and he's running towards you. You can't see what's coming at you next. It is very hard to focus. But that doesn't really matter because you'll probably run into an invisible obstacle or a boost pad and just lose all your rings. That's not what boost pads are supposed to do. This will either kill you, forcing you to restart the whole level in order to get that S rank, or make you lose all your rings. The rings are really important in this game because not only do they improve your score to get an S rank, but they work as a currency you can use at the shop to buy power-ups. These power-ups are the most important thing while you're completing this game because they are unbelievably broken. Each one gives Sonic a new ability, like a shield, or turning him really small and giving him a bigger jump. Now, these are powered by a meter, but that meter is broken too. It never actually depletes itself despite how often you use the power-up. So what does this mean? That means that I can use a shield for an entire stage if I want to, or I can just skip it all with Mini Sonic and just continuously jump to the end of a level. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this because it makes the game much easier. I get to bypass a lot of the big frustrations of the game. However, it still doesn't feel good because I want to play a Sonic game that isn't broken. I don't want to have to essentially cheat in order to make the game playable. And unfortunately, I cannot do this with the side characters. Sonic is helped out by Tails and Knuckles, and they feel even more clumsy than Sonic. Sonic Team decided to get rid of Tails' tail attack in favor of a ring bomb. And I kind of get why. They wanted to show off the physics of the Havoc engine. However, this causes the game to lag a lot because of all of the rings on screen now that the bombs have exploded. And it becomes hard to tell what is a real ring and what is a fake ring. More often than not, it's frustrating than it is useful. On the other side of the spectrum, Knuckles is useless. His hitbox is too small to really attack things effectively, and it becomes smarter to just try and glide over enemies and avoid them completely. Here's the thing, that's not what Knuckles is about. He's about being powerful and sexy, and that's why they cast Idris Elba. Now, the action stages were probably my least favorite part of the game when I completed it back in 2014, and that still remains true today. And when your least favorite part of a game is playing the main game, it's kind of a deal breaker, folks. All of these control issues are most prevalent when you are hunting down silver medals. Each action stage has 5 silver medals hidden throughout them, and they can be pretty tough to find, especially when you can't reach them because the game just decides you can't. If you collect all 5 in a stage, you will get a gold medal. In fact, each action stage has 5 gold medals. 1 for finding all 5 silver medals, 1 for beating the level itself, 1 for getting S rank, 1 for beating the level on hard mode, and 1 for getting an S rank on hard mode. None of these were fun. None of them. Just playing the game is one of the most anger-inducing things I can think of. So trying to perfect the stages when you don't have any of the power-ups yet is just icing on the cake. But you know what else also isn't fun? The bosses and the town missions. None of the bosses are interesting to battle. This is all because of the game's same reasons that I listed to you before. You know, the game being broken, controlling horribly. The amount of times that I tried to turn the egg Cerberus into a freaking wall is insane and unnecessary. Yet the most frustrating and infamous boss is easily Silver. If you don't approach him head on at all, you will be killed in a matter of seconds as he throws you against the wall with his telekinesis. Or even worse, you'll be stuck in an infinite loop where Silver throws you, you lose rings, gather a single ring, and then just throws you again over and over and over again. Controls in the hub world suffer from the exact opposite problems that the action stages face. Everything is way too fast. This makes the actual missions feel impossible, even though they are as bare bones as can be. The town missions are not all required for beating the game, but you do have to do every single one for completion because you get yet another gold medal for getting S rank on every single one. The only joy I found playing in the hub world was that you move so fast that sometimes Tails will just fall to his death and scream all the way down. It's very funny. There are 61 total gold medals for Sonic to get, and none of them felt good to earn. Instead of excitement, I was filled with relief. But then I remembered that, yeah, I still wasn't done, because this was just Sonic's chapter. There are 3 more chapters for Shadow, Newcomer Silver, and the last chapter featuring all 3 main characters. And they are pretty much more or less the same, with some slight differences. Shadow's levels are more combat focused since he's still under the employ of Gun. Fortunately, he doesn't have any actual guns this time around, because SEGA kind of learned their lesson from the game Shadow the Hedgehog. Because these levels are more straightforward and Shadow's my favorite character in the Sonic universe, I actually enjoyed these a little bit more. They're not good by any means, but they were a bit more enjoyable. And then there's Silver. Whew! Silver. Silver is a hedgehog with the power of telekinesis because Sonic Team wanted to play around with the physics of the Havoc engine. Again, they made a character just because they wanted to showcase their expertise with the Havoc engine. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm speculating because at the end of the day, in this game, not the character himself, not his story, not his arc, nothing like that. I'm talking about what it's like to play as this character. Silver is awful. Just awful. The only way Silver can damage enemies is by throwing items or other enemies at them with his telekinesis. This feels completely contradictory to both how Sonic and Shadow play because Silver can't even use the iconic homing attack. He can only kill enemies with physics, and more often than not, it won't work. In fact, there's a good chance that even more things won't function throughout this campaign because it was the last one worked on, and the devs had the least amount of time to try and fix it. Here's the thing, I want to like Silver. I get what Sonic Team was going for here. They got a new cool engine, they want to show it off. Plus, Silver represents a different personality trait. Sonic is the id, Shadow is the ego, and Silver is the super ego. However, all the glitches make Silver more miserable than memorable. I will say though, Silver does feature my favorite glitch in the game. So there's a town mission where Silver needs to use his telekinesis to put apples into barrels. All you have to do to pass is to grab 50 apples and put them in these barrels. However, people found that if you put them in the barrels and then jump to your death, you will have gotten the best time ever. And in doing so, you will have completed the mission in less than a second, no matter how much time you actually took. That's incredibly funny to me, considering that when you look at the mission scope, you have to grab a bunch of these little apples and then try and pray and spray and drop them in these barrels. It's practically impossible. Both Shadow and Silver side characters also play relatively terribly. Rouge plays like Knuckles, Gamma shoots missiles everywhere, Blaze has pyrokinesis, and Amy can double jump and has her hammer. Each of them controls as poorly as everyone else, especially Gamma, whose wonky hitboxes make him almost impossible to use at times. But that's what this whole game feels like. And it stinks because I can see the ambition that's right here in Sonic 2006. I can't help but think that if the developers had just a little bit more time with the QA team, or the QA team had their chance to do their own jobs, then maybe, just maybe, we could have gotten something pretty good. But that's not what happened. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 is like trying to hammer a nail in a ball with silly putty. It doesn't work at all. But I can see that there is some fun to be had here. And fortunately, I'm not the only person to think so. The review. One of my favorite things to experience on this channel is a completion experience that makes a game better than it was before, like with Psychonauts or Yooka-Laylee in The Impossible Lair. But, once again, that is not the case with Sonic 2006, since the more time you spend with the game, the more obvious the flaws stand out. Fortunately, while I was completing Sonic 06, a lot of the tricks that I had learned to, well, play the game kind of came back to me as if it was second nature. Not only that, but when I played the game on Twitch, there were a few speedrunners in the chat who gave me a ton of tips and tricks. So completing the game was much easier than ever before. But this doesn't change the fact that there is no completion bonus, which sucks because those bonuses are some of my favorite parts about Sonic games. There's no Supersonic outside of the final boss, no hidden or special level, nothing. And although I have gotten more used to that over time and I knew that was coming, it still kinda stings. So without sounding weird, is there anything good to come out of Sonic 2006? Well, actually, yes. After the release of some more critically accepted Sonic games in recent years, SEGA completely wiped every online marketplace of Sonic games that didn't perform well in order to avoid confusion and increase the quality of their brand. But the internet never forgets. And one particular member of that internet, Ian Chaos X Morris, really loved Sonic the Hedgehog. So much so, since he couldn't actually play Sonic 2006, he decided to completely rebuild the game from the ground up in Unity. He called it Project 06. Not only that, but he figured he could also fix a lot of little details here. Bugs, glitches that made people hate this game. He grabbed what little code of the game he could find online and began developing it by himself, including textures, shading, animations, and a lot more from scratch. Eventually, a bunch of other Sonic fans heard about that project and jumped on to help him out. And so far, they've released 4 demos of the game, including a totally complete version of Sonic's chapter of the story mode. So you know what? I downloaded it and gave it a shot, and you know what? I liked it a lot. It felt really like a fun 3D Sonic game. It almost feels like it was the game that Sonic Team originally intended to make. Playing Project 06 reminded me of why I got rid of the Burn It rating all those years ago. So this episode specifically was one of those things where this was kind of the death of me doing weird, long, convoluted bits. You kind of know the ones I'm talking about, right? Your favorite YouTuber has a sketch or an ongoing joke that's really hard to digest. As I was growing into my career more and more, I kind of felt like I wanted to dodge that stuff altogether. So there was this whole bit that this Xbox possessed me and trapped me in there, and I needed my friends to help me. In order to do that, I had to encourage my fans, you guys at home who watched, to burn or destroy their copies of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. It was supposed to be a fun community thing, but actually what ended up happening was I upset a lot of you guys at home. It was like I was encouraging book burning or something like that. I immediately understood the error of my ways, I removed that video, and then I retooled it a bit. But the lesson I learned more importantly was that I shouldn't destroy things that people love. The sentiment is still the game sucks, but don't physically break the things that you get. So I changed it from burn it to donate it. Because even if a game is broken, even if a game looks weird, even if a game is completely unplayable, there is still a team of human beings behind it who want to make a game that people around the world would enjoy, hopefully. And I think the gaming world would be better off if we all remembered that. When I recompleted Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, there were about 35 deaths, 80% of which were due to random glitches.
23 achievements, which went with everything else, so it wasn't really that much of a hassle. It was expected.
4 story modes completed across 2 difficulties, 180 gold medals, which forced me to replay each level dozens of times in order to get
191 S ranks, which includes boss fights, town missions, and action stages, and doing all said action stages again on hard mode and very hard mode, the game's DLC, which unfortunately you get nothing for.
39 hours of total playtime, and 1 Supersonic fan who showed me that the amount of time and love put into a game is just as important as the quality of the game itself. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 is an incomplete and broken game. There's no doubt about that. Playing the game is a test in frustration that I feel like hasn't been felt in a modern AAA game in quite some time, and I think maybe more recently with Balan Wonderworld. The overall look, while not terrible, is jarring, especially for diehard Sonic fans. Overall, the final product of Sonic 06 is not good at all, and it surprises me that it has found an audience that it has today. But it did! Despite everything wrong with Sonic 2006, there is something that keeps people coming back to it. And at first I thought it was like a car accident, right? Where you just can't look away. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. Sonic fans love Sonic, and Sonic Team is made up of Sonic fans nowadays. They wanted to make something new and exciting, but fell short due to extenuating circumstances. And there were people out there who saw this turd of a game, thought it could be good with a bit of polish, and you know what? They were right. Project 06 is a ton of fun, and I commend Chaos X and the rest of the people working on this game. If the whole game was done, and I was just reviewing Project 06, I'd easily say that it was worth your time. But I'm not. I'm looking at the original Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 with different eyes. I think it's worth looking at. I think it's worth looking at everything that went into it. At the very least, look at it for a little bit. So, with that in mind, I give this game its new completionist rating of look at it.
Look at it.